I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk, please take attendance.
Mayor Niemeyer and Councilmember Wendell are both absent this evening. Councilmember Avery is joining via telephone.
Thank you. Item 3 is the approval of the agenda. I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Duran,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Specker,
Aye.
Tildenburn,
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Next is open forum. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council on an item not included on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I would just mention we want to wish congratulations to the SDSU women's basketball team on their Summit League championship win that just happened a little bit ago. And good luck to the men who play at 8:30 later tonight. Next is our consent agenda. Excuse me, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I wouldn't like to remove it, but I would just like to have an overview.
Consent agenda to have discussion around it? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
So any questions or comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just request an overview.
Charlie Richter.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to talk about a contract award for a slurry seal project that the city is planning to enter into for calendar year 2024. The city currently chip seals all of its streets over while this process is an important process to maintain our roads in a great shape that they're in, it can be dusty and cause a nuisance for people with stones hitting cars and getting kicked up onto their. The city, excuse me, the city has explored other options on how to properly seal our streets to maintain them. We've looked at a process called slurry seal. It is a process that involves mixing the stone prior to putting it down on the street, and it's applied with a paver applicator. The city of Sioux Falls does this instead of chip seal for all their streets that they do on a 10-year rotation. The city plans to do a pilot program with this slurry seal to measure performance and see if this is something that we would want to maybe eventually go to instead of chip seal in the future. We're planning to do 3 streets, 22nd Avenue South, 34th Avenue, and 5th Street South as a test pilot for this process. We're really anxious and interested to see how this performs. It is a quick sealing process. Over a course of a few hours, you can drive on it. There's no subsequent sweeping or dust generated from the process. So we're anxious to see how this performs for the city.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I'll just follow up with a comment. I just want to thank staff for any issues, and I'm excited to see how this works out. So thank you.
Councilmember Avery, any questions or comments from you?
No, that just sounds good. I actually just had some comments when I was here at the basketball tournament. Somebody was was telling me they weren't satisfied with the way the chip seal had worked in front of their particular home. So now I can report back to them that we're looking into some different things. So that's good.
Thank you. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
Tildenburn?
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Dorian?
Aye.
All right, so next we have presentations and reports, and we will start with a proclamation. I invite the members of the Brookings Disability Awareness Committee to come forward. All right. Whereas developmental disabilities are often present as early as birth in those impacted and endure across the lifespan of a person, and whereas disability is a natural part of the human experience that does not diminish the right of individuals to enjoy self-determination and experience full inclusion, and whereas family, friends, and the community can play an important role in enhancing the lives of individuals with disabilities, especially when provided with necessary services and supports, and whereas the goals of our community to include providing individuals with disabilities the opportunities and support to achieve full integration in society in an individualized manner consistent with unique strengths, resources, priorities, concerns, abilities, and capabilities of each individual. And whereas through increased awareness of programs and activities, the public will better understand the potential and needs of individuals with disabilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Opke G. Niemeyer, Mayor of the City of Brookings, does hereby proclaim March 2024 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month and calls upon the people of Brookings to recognize this special observance. Would you like to say any words?
Developmental disabilities can kind of affect anyone. And I just found out recently, believe it or not, that I'm considered developmentally disabled. And what it is anything that impedes your growth or progress, what would be called normal progress, which I guess it kind of explains why I didn't attend SDSU on a basketball scholarship. Many with developmental disabilities are some of the happiest people that you might know, for a lot of reasons. And often it's because of that they can maybe enjoy that childlike wonder at life up until the point where something gets in the way. And so often it's some person, very often an adult, who further impedes their progress and takes away that happiness that maybe enjoy that they get to enjoy. So as we think about this, as we're going forward in this month, this Developmental Disability Awareness Month, think about that. Don't be that person that takes away the joy. Be the person that adds to it and compounds it and makes it better for everyone. Because community is really a very important part of everything. And the developmentally disabled, along with everybody else, has a strong need to be part of the community. So thank you for this, and think about that when you go out tomorrow.
All right. Next, we have ex officio reports. First, the BMU board did not meet, correct? Wonderful. So then next we have Brookings Health System Board. Councilmember Doran will be giving us the report on that.
So we had, with the health system, we had an investment authority board meeting as well as a full board meeting. In the investment authority board meeting, we just looked at long-term financial strategy and did a checkpoint on the health system's financials. With the full board meeting, it's pretty full, so I'll try to keep it brief. We discussed national and industry trends. One of them was the risk of rural hospitals and their risk of closure. South Dakota was noted, according to Becker's Hospital Review by the Chartis Center for Rural Health, that we have 31 to 41% of rural hospitals at risk of closure. There are a variety of reasons for increasing pressure on rural hospitals, noting economic pressure and finding sustainable financial channels and reimbursement. We also discussed different ways that hospitals are battling employee turnover. A few examples listed in the article was tuition reimbursement, childcare options, elder care subsidy, and more. Locally at the health system, they are refreshing the Inspiring Local Health Peer Recognition Quarterly Staff Program and looking at further ideas as well. Internally, they have several facility improvement projects that have been made in the emergency department and laboratory and the neighborhoods. They are incorporating a new prescription in the ER, which is a non-opioid medication used as pain control option for patients with substance use or abuse disorder. There was also a survey and recommendations provided by Project First Line, which is a partnership with the South Dakota Foundations for Medical Care, South Dakota Department of Health, and Center for Disease Control, where they looked at infection control in hospital areas. Overall, they found very positive findings, and the survey was provided at no cost. The sleep lab did get accredited, and they are providing services including home sleep testing as well as the sleep lab center with new equipment arriving this month. And in 2023, there were 2 authorized eye donors and 1 tissue donor. And new last year was also the donation of birth tissue that comes from scheduled C-sections, of which there were 8 birth tissue donations. Then there were several different community and outreach programs that were conducted. The health system team members and some family members built 25 beds in under 2 hours, along with hosting a bedding and stuffed animal drive for Sleep in Heavenly Peace for families in our county. And for the 9th year, the health system was included by the Chartis Center on the top 100 rural and community hospitals list. The ER participated in the Brookings Mental Health Coalition Suicide Prevention Conference, and the Wound Center sponsored the 2nd annual Every Soul Deserves a Sock drive in February to be dispersed through the Salvation Army. And the community health worker presented at the National Community Health Worker Conference on the success stories of her work. She has also been asked to provide a static presentation for the upcoming South Dakota Community Health Worker Conference. And then finally, the Wound Center director met with providers at Prairie Lakes and Watertown to educate on hyperbaric oxygen therapy and patient criteria for treatment, so helping regionally. That is all. Thank you.
It is spring break, so we do not have a report from the SDSU Students Association this evening. Item 7 is contract and change orders. We have none. So moving on to item 8, first readings. Item 8A is introduction and first reading on ordinance 24-006, an ordinance authorizing budget amendment number 1 to the 2024 budget. Ashley Wrench, our finance director, will present this item.
The first reading of ordinance 24-006, authorizing amendment number 1 to the 2024 budget. This amendment has 3 parts. Part 1 carries forward unused budget authority from 2023 in the amount of $10,492,000. And this includes $1.8 million in ARPA funds that were allocated to community partners, $4.7 million in projects and equipment in the CIP fund, $2.5 million in larger capital projects, including the University Boulevard project, the 20th Street Interchange, and the Detention Basin project associated with TIF 9. And in the general fund, about $125,000 in Finance Department budget savings will be used to fund new financial reporting and budgeting initiatives, as well as a part-time accounting assistant. Part 2 will utilize overall 2023 budget surplus to fund new initiatives in the amount of $533,824. This includes the Western Avenue Bridge replacement for $300,000, Police Department facility improvements for $53,000, and a new forklift for $50,000. This amendment also accounts for adding a full-time strategic communications specialist in the Public Works Department and a part-time recreation coordinator at the Activity Center. Finally, Part 3 will transfer approximately $153,000 to the Dakota Bank Center for operational needs. The second reading of this ordinance will be on March 26th. Any questions you have?
Thank you, Ashley. Seeing none, is there any comment or question from the council members?
So for things that were budgeted on last year's budget that didn't get paid for or done, and they're being carried forward. So none of these appeared on the projected for 2024 budget.
That is correct.
Just wanted to make that clear to everyone. Thanks.
Any other? Member Avery? All right, a second.
No, I'm good.
Thank you. A second reading and action on this item will be held March 26th. Item 8B is introduction and first reading on ordinance 24-005, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brookings and pertaining to the Brookings Public Arts Commission. Stacy Clausen, Recreation Manager, and Julia Eberhardt, Public Arts Commission Chair, will present this item.
Good evening, council members. I guess, are there any questions to the ordinance or the ordinance changes that we are requesting?
Is there any public question? Any council question?
I understand that a lot of these, the 8 to 10 members, there was a list of where they should be coming from. The Arts Council at SDSU, the South Dakota Art Museum, a variety of people, and that whole paragraph has been scratched.
Yes.
And I can see where, when you're very specific on some of these seats on that commission, that it might be hard to fill them. But when I read through it, it doesn't seem like there's anyone directly involved with art that has to be on this art commission. Like all of those positions are now gone.
It actually is, we are just broadening it a little bit as far as that goes. And then some of those particular items have been moved to the bylaws. So the bylaws then, which are a little bit easier to change, are where there's a little bit more direct as far as who we would like to have on the board.
Okay.
So there are most of it is art professionals. There's SDSU, but we don't go into specifics like School of Design or.
Okay, so those art people are
Yep.
still included on this
Yes,
commission?
for sure, yes.
Good. The other thing I was wondering is, a lot of it seems that the council is now out of it and maybe I'm just missing where they're still, but a lot of the part where the city council has approval of the art that's brought in has been scratched out. Is that true, or is it just said in one place and that's all you really needed?
Right, that too has kind of been moved into the bylaws area, but everything is upon approval of the council.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the intents with this is to help with recruitment. In your experience in general, how has recruitment been for volunteers for your board?
I guess because of the specifics of the board itself, it has been a little bit difficult. We now have 7 members, so that's good, and we would like to get 9. And we do have some interest. I believe we have 3 applicants at this time, so that's positive.
Thank you.
Interest in the Public Arts Commission, but with these changes, it can sometimes be hard to find folks that are specific to the SDSU School of Design. So I believe there's actually a situation where we've had to keep a seat vacant and not fill it because we have folks who are capable of serving, but don't meet necessarily the requirements of the ordinance, so we weren't able to fill some of those positions.
Thank you. Any other questions or?
No.
All right, so we will have second reading and action on this item on March 26th.
Thank you.
Item 8C, introduction and first reading on ordinance 24-007, an ordinance to change the zoning within the city of Brookings, 305 and 307 Main Avenue South from Business B2A Office District to Business B3 Heavy District. Ryan Miller, City Planner, will present this item.
Good evening, council members. The city has received a petition to rezone two adjacent lots, 305 and 307 Main Avenue South. Lots from Business B2A Office District to Business B3 Heavy District. As you can see here, the current zoning and future land use maps. On the left is the zoning map. The property is located at the corner of Main Avenue South and 3rd Street South. It is surrounded by R3A Residence District and B3 Heavy Business District. And on the right map is our future land use map. The shaded area surrounding the rezone area is an urban medium intensity future land use category, which would support the Business B3 zoning district. The Planning Commission held a public hearing at their March meeting to rezone.
Seeing none, are there any council questions or comments?
So B2A it's my understanding that that zone is sort of set up to be next to residential housing. Is it a problem at all? I mean, how many areas within Brookings are zoned B2 or B3 or, the heavier zoning that are located this close? Because that entire block, 3/4 of it is residential. Is that common to put B3 zones in residential areas?
We do have a handful of areas in the city where there's B3 adjacent to an R3 or an R3A. When you have a business district next to a residential district, you kind of want to look at the density of each of the districts. The R3A and the R3 are the heaviest density residential districts. And we do have, like I said, a handful of areas in town where there are B3, which is the heavy business district, next to the heavy residential district. The B2A is certainly a less dense business district and is more appropriate for single-family housing districts. In this case, it would be adjacent to R3 apartment districts, which is very similar to what we see along the majority of South Main, the B3 adjacent to the R3A, so it would be similar to many other areas in town, especially this area.
Okay, and this particular area, if something else is built there, it has to go meet that design standards along Main?
This property is within the commercial corridor design review overlay district, so any major renovations or expansions or a full redevelopment would have to go through a corridor review public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was just wondering, current business that does occupy this building would still adhere if the zoning is repassed, or if the zoning is passed, it would still adhere to the new zoning, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you for confirming.
Councilmember Avery?
No questions.
All right. Public hearing and action on this item will be held March 26th.
Thank you.
Item 9 is ordinances, second readings and public hearings. We have none. So moving on to item 10, other business. Item 10A, action on a development agreement for tax increment district number 14. Jake Meschke, Deputy City Manager, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. And Branch Creek LLC as it relates to tax increment district number 14. The tax increment financing, or TIF, project plan identifies $9 million. Financially, this agreement specifies the developer can be reimbursed up to $7.3 million for eligible project costs, The city commits to using TIF funds to making park and pedestrian/biking connectivity improvements while preserving the flexibility to use the funds for other TIF-eligible project expenses as deemed necessary. The agreement also specifies the workforce housing to be constructed as part of this project. Construction will include a mixture of single-family homes. This point of any unit constructed will not exceed the South Dakota Housing Development Authority first-time homebuyers program limit, which is currently set at 300. Constructed over the course of 5 phases. For the first phase of construction, which will occur this year in 2024, the 2 and 3 bedroom townhouses will have a price point or purchase price between $226,999 and $254,999. A 4-unit townhouse may also be built at a price point that will not exceed $319,999. Twin homes and single-family homes will be sold underneath that South Dakota Housing Development Authority first-time homebuyers program limit. Price points for the future phases going beyond this year will be indexed to any change within that South Dakota. In talking to the developers, we are hopeful that the first units will be available for sale towards the end of summer, early fall yet this year. And of course, that is contingent on weather and the installation of infrastructure in the area. I do also want to take this time to thank the development team for their effort. It's been great working with them, and we look forward to bringing more affordable housing to the community. With that, staff recommends approval, and staff as well as the development team are here to answer any questions.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any council comment or question? Councilmember Specker?
Like I'm the question too, so I don't feel like I'm the only one doing this. But Jake, could you know, there was a development down along 22nd near Ace that there was a concern with only one entrance in and out with as many housing units that were being put in there. And I know I guess the question is, are these plans that are within this TIF document the final plans, and will there be more than one entrance into this given the number of housing units?
Yeah, great question, council member. I know it's a little bit faint on the screen before you, but there are actually 2 ways in and out of this development. On 20th Street South. If you look towards the bottom of the screen, which would actually be east, you can see a road that actually connects into the development adjacent. So that would be their secondary access point. That is something that we did talk extensively with the development team on this, and they were committed to ensuring they had their secondary access requirements met. So this development does actually have 2 access points.
Thank you.
Any other question or comment? Councilmember Durin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Development agreement, just clarifying, and then I have a comment. Is there a deed restriction in the development agreement for the first buyer of if they can rent it out or not?
Within the development agreement, there is not language that would contain that. And I would also look to the developers here, but there will be a housing association here that would have additional requirements on these properties.
If you could please state your name too.
Good evening, I'm Tom Fishback. Within the covenants that we're putting in place, we are not allowing individuals to rent homes within the Branch Creek development.
Thank you. Is that just for the first buyer, or is it for any owner?
Our intention is for any owner that,
Okay.
that we want to make sure that they're single-family residences for the entire community,
Thank you.
neighborhood, I should say.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
You
a hard timeline on when the development has to be done within this TIF agreement, like if there's a set schedule for that?
Within the TIF agreement, there's not a hard deadline, but with tax increment financing, it is to the developer's benefit to develop as quickly as possible, because the longer they wait, the less increment that this would generate. So there is a natural incentive in the market of TIF for them to develop these out as quickly as possible.
Councilmember Doran.
a variety of housing plans and rates and options that are available. When you look at our housing study in 2022, it noted that diverse housing options were needed to provide movement across the housing market. And when we look at this plan, it has the high density, it has mixed income, and it creates a richer social and economic integration in this neighborhood. So I'm really excited for this project. Thank you.
Councilmember Avery, any questions from you?
No questions, but just a comment that it seems like a project that really goes along with what we've been trying to do as far as develop more workforce housing and more housing options. So it's just a good project for everybody. So all in favor.
Thank you. I would just echo those sentiments. It's always exciting to see development for the community that is geared towards affordable housing. So I appreciate the efforts that have gone into this and the creativity behind it. So thank you for that. If there are no other questions or comments, then would the clerk please call the roll?
Specker,
Aye.
Tilton Burn,
Aye.
Avery,
Aye.
Duran,
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
All right. So moving on to item 11, City Council member introduction of topics for future discussion. It should be noted that the March 19th study session is canceled. The next regular meeting is March 26th. Does any member of the council have items to present for a future agenda? All right, hearing none. A couple of items that are slated for that agenda, we will see presentations and reports, including a 2024 Public Works project presentation. We have a contract and change order to award the chip seal project. Ordinance first readings, we have a couple of those, one on encroachment permits, one on a rezone. We have second readings, one and public hearings, one for a new malt license for Classic Convenience. A couple of items under other business will be a policy on acceptance of storm drainage facilities and a disband of the Traffic Safety Committee. And then we will also hear a city progress report from the Assistant to the City Manager. Next is item 12, executive session. We will enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2.3 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel or reviewing communications from legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation or contractual matters. We will not have any voting after our executive session. I entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are now in executive session.